basketball is essentially a give and go. NBA Give and Go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the return of the Give and Go podcast. We've got a very special pre-draft NBA guide for you guys here today. And with us today is my host with the most. We got Jordan Taylor. Jordan,
I'm taking
how you doing?
5 point guards in the first round.
5
point guard.
You wild, Jordan, you wild. And joining us today, we got a very special guest here. It's our head analytics operator. We got Adam Kroon.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, Adam. Thanks for joining us here today.
No problem. It's all good. I love talking basketball with you guys.
Adam, last time you were on the Give and Go podcast, you were still the head analytics expert at the University of Victoria. Are you a full-time head analytics somewhere else now, or does the University of Victoria still ring true for you?
Oh no, I've moved on to a different field, but the analytics still run strongly through my veins right now. So it's all good. It's a hobby now, and it'll be a job later.
Of course, man. That's what we love to hear.
Love it.
Well, we've got our big draft coming up on Thursday, and the loyal followers of the Give and Go podcast here deserve to know what's good. So we're going to have a little mock draft here, and we're going to go through picks 1 through 15, and we're going to alternate between you, Adam, and Jordan, making your picks for each team. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's give and go. So with the first overall pick here, we have the Phoenix Suns. Now, they've got a lot of glaring holes in that front court. Alex Len's a free agent this offseason. They've got a couple young stars there. They've got Devin Booker coming up on the rise. They had gotten Elfrid Payton at the end of the year, but he's also a free agent. Kroon, where are you going with this number 1 pick?
I'm going to go with David Robinson-Light. Obviously, DeAndre Ayton with the first overall pick.
Okay. And give me a little analysis on this, because this seems to be the consensus number 1, but there was some thought that maybe Luka Doncic could go at this number 1 spot due to his connections with Phoenix's new head coach.
Yeah, I just think that you're getting a chance at an elite-style rim protector. And I watched a few of Ayton's games throughout March Madness, and I think he's got a pretty decent offensive kit. Along with, his physicality and his body, I think he's NBA ready, and I don't think you roll the dice on the number 1 pick. You take BPA, best player available.
Right, and the Arizona big man is the best player available to you. He's 7'1", 250, and he did play for Arizona, which is the hometown team for the Phoenix Suns there in college. Jordan, do you have any comments on this pick?
So, you've got to understand that DeAndre Ayton at the NBA Combine this year was scoring numbers that were equivalent to some of the best point guards that have gone through the Combine since it started a couple years ago. I mean, we're talking this guy has apparent John Wall quickness, Vince Carter hops, and he's 7 foot, 265 to boot. I agree that we might be looking at a resurgent center. The position has been quite brought down based on how the style of gameplay is played today, with everyone shooting threes and trying to play fast ball. But if this guy is just a point guard in a center's body, I mean, the David Robinson is a very accurate representation for him. I'm looking at team needs for Phoenix. There isn't much more to say for this pick. I mean, outside of point guard and center, they seem to starting to build a franchise up together quite well. So where do you go? You definitely don't take a point guard when DeAndre Ayton's still on the board. I think this is a pretty much consensus lock number 1, and I don't think we've had a consensus lock number one like this for years where anyone's going to really surprise us with that first overall pick. Rajan, I'll pass it off to you. Any chance that this gets traded, number one overall? We've been hearing some rumblings that Kawhi is available, and a lot of executives are digging deep in the pockets to throw different area to try and build super team.
I think the Phoenix Suns do not have enough to build, even if they had Kawhi Leonard. I think with their youth movement going right now, I think that Ayton is probably the safe pick here. And, there's been rumors already that he's been hanging out with Devin Booker and Josh Jackson in Phoenix. So I think this is a pretty safe pick and a good building block for Phoenix going forward. So with the number one pick, we've got DeAndre Ayton off the board. That brings us to number two. Now this spot, there's a lot of rumors going around about all sorts of different players at this spot. The Sacramento Kings, they haven't had the best luck with the draft in recent years with Papagiannis and a couple other picks that just didn't quite pan out. With Vlade Divac running the show, and I believe Peja Stojakovic has joined him in the front office. Jordan, which direction do you think they go here with the number two pick?
You're forgetting about my boy, Nick Stauskas, talking about players that don't pan out for Sacramento's top 10 picks in the past couple years. So this is an interesting pick. I mean, once again, I know Kroon and I see differently when it comes to drafts. Kroon is all about best player available, which is why I like to go up against him in these mock drafts, where I'm looking at positional needs for the team. And when I look at this team, I can see that they have a very promising guard-heavy lineup coming in. They've got Buddy Hield. They've got Bogdan. They've even got their new point guard, De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah,
while a little bit rough around the edges, has a lot of potential. What they do lack, unfortunately, is a prospective center or power forward that can really give them quality minutes outside of Willie Colley, or relying a lot on Zach Randolph. Zach Randolph, 36.
He's too old.
So if I am a Sacramento King, I'm going to pick Marvin Bagley out of Duke University, 6'11" power forward. However, I'd like to put a little sty in here and basically say, I don't think Sacramento's going to pick Marvin Bagley. I think they're going to pick Luka Doncic because of their international flavor that they have.
Okay.
Kroon, what do you think?
Okay, so wait, hold on. Let me get this straight. Did you pick Marvin Bagley or Luka Doncic at this pick?
I pick Marvin Bagley. All I'm saying is that you come to draft day, Sacramento's probably not going to pick him. I'd be very surprised if they do. But if I'm running that front office, that guy is off the board at number 2.
Okay. Kroon, what do you think of the pick here? We've officially put it down as Marvin Bagley here at the number 2 pick for the Sacramento Kings. What do you think, Kroon?
I actually agree. I don't really see Sacramento really relying on Skal Labissiere too much. He's too random right now. He's all over the place. Marvin Bagley was basically slated or ranked as the number 1 overall player for this year's draft for a very good portion of the year until DeAndre Ayton decided to start playing out of his mind. So I think it's again a really smart move to take the best player available on the board in Marvin Bagley. So I completely agree with Jordan there, and I also completely agree that that the Kings are probably going to take Doncic instead. So it's kind of funny. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah, see, like the things that I've been hearing is that Luka Doncic does not want to go to the Kings. He's trying to maneuver his way to a different team here. But as far as a talent perspective goes, I'm not sure if I agree with you guys. I believe that Luka...
I totally agree with that statement. Luka doesn't want to go to the Kings because there's already a prominent young guard core. So they're going to have to either play him out of position as, he's basically touted as a point guard, yet they got him as a shooting guard, small forward. I mean, he's 6'8", so he should be able to play the small forward. But what we've come time and time again to see from European players making the jump is that they get bullied a lot in their first years until they figure it out. The NBA game is faster and tougher with more talented players.
It's true, but from my point of view, I think Luka Doncic is probably the best player in this draft. That's my own personal opinion, my bias. But I think the way that he's played and handled himself, he's the most accomplished European player ever to come into the draft. And let's put a little spin on this one, though. What are the chances that this pick actually gets traded, Jordan? There's a bunch of rumors coming around that the Sacramento Kings are looking to even move down, possibly.
Sacramento is not going to move on anything. Trust me. Number 2 is too good of a pick to have to move on it. And if you're telling me Luka Doncic is the best player in this draft, how come DeAndre Ayton gets picked first overall? Look, I think the NBA is a little gun-shy when it comes to international players now. That rage in the 2000s that we had 10, 15 years ago, that's starting to pace down a little bit because a lot of those players that were picked, while good, were not superstars. And when you've got a top 5 pick, it's got to be a superstar. It's the Carlos Boozer curse. You pay the price, you get a player who gives you good Kobe Bryant. He's not LeBron James, and therefore he is technically a bust.
Well, that's to be seen for now, Jordan. Let's move on to the next pick here. So with the 3rd overall pick, we have the Atlanta Hawks. Now, Atlanta, they've done pretty well recently in developing young players. They had a few young prospects last year that kind of came out of nowhere to kind of surprise people. But you know, they're having some issues also in that point guard position as Dennis Schroeder is apparently unhappy with the team. He's requested a trade even. But Kroon, if you're the Atlanta Hawks, you're on the clock here. DeAndre Ayton's off the board. Marvin Bagley's off the board. Where do you go at the number 3 pick?
I've actually been thinking about this quite a bit. The Hawks are really interesting now with respect to Schrader requesting a trade. However, you've got a nice starting block with John Collins in your front court.
That's right.
I'm going to say that you take best player available in Mohamed Bamba, 3rd overall, to pair with John Collins. And in the coming years, you will see an Atlanta Hawks front court that is second to none.
So you're taking Mo Bamba, the forward, and he's projected all over the place, but he's 6'11" out of Texas, freshman, averaged 13 and 10 with I believe near 4 blocks a game in his freshman year at Texas. This is an interesting pick, Jordan. What do you think of Mo Bamba going 3rd to the Atlanta Hawks?
Kroon, are you kidding me? Mohamed Bamba at 3? What kind of world are we living in where you keep Luka Doncic on the board at 3? I don't care how many point guards Atlanta has. Luka Doncic is the future of European basketball, and you're going to pick Mohamed Bamba. I'm going to tell you something about Texas this year. You go to the NCAA college basketball website, and you can look at the rankings based on opponent scores. And I will tell you that Texas finished 19th overall in the season, basically saying they're the 19th hardest record in the league. This is below Duke. This is below teams like Villanova and Kentucky and Kansas. Like, this team didn't really get a good taste of quality college basketball. Mohamed Bamba feasted on some shit teams to pad those stats. I don't think Mohamed Bamba is a good pick at number 3 with what you have left on the board still. And with Atlanta, you hit the very bottom. So don't tell me that Kent Bazemore, their starting shooting guard right now, is what you want to keep moving forward instead of Luka Doncic in that position.
Well,
centers are not important in this league right now, other than DeAndre, who we talked about is basically a game changer as far as we're concerned.
Okay, but I'll let Kroon have a rebuttal in a sec here too. But I do have some comments because Mohamed Bamba, he does have a lot of upside defensively, and could become a game changer on that end especially. And with respects to Luka Doncic, he's already put out rumors that maybe he would stay in EuroLeague for next year. If he's not in a favorable position, which I don't know if he'd want to go to Atlanta. Kroon, please defend this pick.
I've got a couple points to defend here, but I've been paying attention a lot to the pre-draft workouts, and Mohamed Bamba was really turning heads with respect to speed and his response times and stuff like that for agility. And I think if you have the chance to start building an elite defensive team within a draft, I think the better you are. Plus, like if you look at their center position right now, they've got Dwayne Dedman, who was a backup on the San Antonio Spurs a few years ago, and Miles Plumlee.
I think I just threw up my mouth a little bit. Miles,
right? Yeah. So I think it's a good position to draft at if you're looking to build talent. And like you said, Atlanta's been doing a good job developing talent the last few years. So that's all I have to say. The other thing that I have to say about Luka is Luka hasn't done a single pre-draft workout with a single team yet so far because he's been playing nonstop in the EuroLeague right now. He might not even make draft night the way that he's playing or the way that his teams are playing right now. I think that might be seen as a bit of a detractor to most NBA teams, that they're not getting a personal view. They're also not getting the ability to look at his medical records and see how healthy he is. He's been playing almost nonstop for like the last year and a half, so you have no idea of any injuries that have occurred over the last season in the EuroLeague. So Luka, in my opinion, might be the player that starts slipping quite a bit, unless he's taken at pick number 2 with Sacramento.
Definitely, and another thing to note with Mo Bamba here is that he actually recorded the longest wingspan in NBA history here at 7'10" at the draft combine, and not to mention he was out there stroking 3-pointers with ease at his pre-draft workout. So, this seems like a very high risk, high reward type of pick here, and I don't know. I wouldn't put it past anybody.
I agree that this is a high risk, high reward. I think this guy could potentially be a Tyson Chandler type of defensive game changer, and we know what he did for Dallas a couple years back when they won the ring. You guys are both talking like Atlanta's going to make the playoff. Mohamed Bamba plays well. Atlanta isn't going to make the playoffs next year or the year after that. So why not take the risk on Luka, be bad again, guarantee yourself another top prospect? And along all of those lines, you talk about injury reports. Joel Embiid was taken 3rd overall, and this dude had a messed up back. They didn't even know if he was going to play in the NBA because of his injuries. They were calling this guy the next Greg Oden. So the fact that, Philadelphia took the risk, and look what's happening with them. It's paying off in bunches for them now. It would be a simple decision as a franchise to look at Philadelphia's success at being bad and saying, let's follow the same formula.
Yeah, they definitely did not care about those injury histories. But regardless, Mo Bamba's the pick at 3. So we'll move on to the next pick here, Jordan. With the 4th overall pick, we've got the Memphis Grizzlies on the board. Memphis is in a very peculiar situation. They were riddled with injuries last year. They kind of went away from their grit and grind style for a bit there with the change of head coaches. And they're going to be coming back next season with a healthy Marc Gasol, hopefully, healthy Mike Conley. You still got Chandler Parsons' deal there on the board. There's even been some rumors of Memphis kind of shopping Chandler Parsons with the 4th overall pick. But assuming that they keep their pick, Jordan, you're on the clock with the Memphis Grizzlies. Who do you take?
This is an easy one for me. Luka comes off the board at number 4. The real question is, does Luka stay with Memphis for draft night, or does he go somewhere else? We've already talked about Luka in much detail in the other picks already, so I won't go into the details there. I think he's a good fit for that 2-3 spot that I think Memphis is sorely lacking. Marc Gasol, another famous young European player that made the jump. He knows what the difference between the competition. He's going to act as a great mentor if Luka's still on the board and picked up there. I mean, we're all talking about the Chandler Parsons trade and putting the 4th overall pick with it, but let's be honest here. I don't know any team that has that much cap space that can provide them a trade that's beneficial towards them, a team getting involved. The variables there are too high. I mean, in our own little personal group, the three of us had discussed Toronto Raptors getting involved now that they're starting to get excited about some other players available at the lower end of the draft. So all I have to say there is Luka Doncic for the Memphis Grizzlies. Do I think he stays? I don't think Memphis moves this pick if they get the right player to drop, like Luka would in this case.
Yeah, and Kroon, what do you think of Luka going at number 4 here?
No, it's a good pick regardless. Luka's got talent, so I can't really disagree with anything that Jordan has to say. However, I think Trae Young might have been a better fit. Seems like a little bit more of an electric scoring shooting guard that you compare with Connolly and Gasol. You know, I see Trae Young as being possibly the diamond in the rough in this draft that a lot of people are going to overlook, a la possibly Stephen Curry, but I can't disagree with Jordan. Luka's a good pick, talent, and at the pick that we've got here, so it's all good.
Yeah, and if I could elaborate a little bit more on Luka Doncic, for me, I personally love these European wings that are coming out. I think Luka Doncic personally is the best player in this draft, or will be the best player in this draft 10 years down the road. His game reminds me a lot of James Harden. That's what my NBA comparison for him would probably be. He's very methodical. He's got those step-back three-point jump shots in his arsenal already. He's already won the MVP of the EuroLeague at 19 years old. I think this kid's just got superstar written all over him, and I think this would be a great, great ad for the Memphis Grizzlies to potentially make another playoff run next season with Conley, Gasol, possibly Tyreek Evans still there with Luka Doncic. I think it's a great pick here. Jordan, any last comments on Luka?
Not much else to say. I mean, Kroon does have a good point about Trae Young. You know, I'm looking at Trae Young's stats on the internet right now, and he's 6'2", and he's 180. So your Steph Curry comparison is spot on. So in order for Trae Young to succeed, he's going to have to learn to play point guard like Steph Curry did, because he is too small for a shooting guard. I mean, you put him with Mike Conley, you have a very small backcourt. But hey, you know what? We've seen weirder things happen in the NBA leading to a changing of the guard, a la Steph Curry.
Right. All right, man. Well, we got Luka off the board here at number 4, so we're going to move on to the 5th pick. It's the Dallas Mavericks picking 5th. So, Kroon, where do you go with this one?
I think it's a no-brainer. Trae Young is my 100 emoji pick of the night here. I watched more Oklahoma games this year than I have any other team, only because I follow Trae Young on Twitter, and every time he plays another game, there's another unreal stat line that pops up in his Twitter feed, and just a bunch of 100 emojis after that. I love his attitude. He's super humble. He's super grounded. He has a really good work ethic. I think if you're looking at Dallas right now, they see this guy who models his game after Steph Curry as possibly another Steve Nash, the second coming of Steve Nash in Dallas. So, like I said, I think it's a no-brainer here. Trae Young comes off the board, and you start building possibly what you'd like to call Golden State 2.0 in Dennis Smith Jr. and Trae Young.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going to elaborate a little bit here on, is that you've got one electric guard already in the backcourt in Dennis Smith Jr., and you added Trae Young to it. Jordan, what do you think of that combo?
I like it. And I like it because Dennis Smith Jr. is a slasher and Trae Young is a shooter. And I really think Dallas suffered a lot because they didn't put enough good shooters around Dennis Smith Jr. You know, Dirk's old. A lot of the rest of that team there, Wesley Matthews couldn't stay healthy and, wasn't shooting that well this year. So you start building up that backcourt, in a couple of years' time, maybe get a free agent down the road here with a trade for your front court. Dallas is starting to look strong. And, undersized again? Yeah, you're going to be undersized. So maybe they have to go, backup and backup guard and starting guard for the first little bit. But I will say that, small ball is not really that uncommon anymore. So we could see that lineup out a lot. And depending on how Rick Carlisle does, could coach it to be successful.
Yeah, and with Trae Young there and Dennis Smith Jr., you basically built your backcourt for the future. I mean, this leaves them very thin up front still. They had various people starting throughout the year. Dwight Powell, Salah Mejri, a couple other guys. You guys don't think that maybe they could look for a big at this spot? You think Trae Young is more beneficial to build the backcourt here, Kroon?
This is a big, heavy draft. This is a very, very talented, big, heavy draft right now. But I think, I like I said, I look at Steph Curry as the diamond in the rough of this draft. I think a lot of people are probably overlooking him due to his size, but I see an unbelievable skill set. This dude can stroke it from 5 feet out of the college three. He has amazing vision for passing, and he plays a little bit of defense too. So it's not that bad. But I think if you pair him, like Jordan said, with Dennis Smith Jr., you're going to have an amazing 1-2 combo in your starting lineup. And just like Houston, you can win games just by scoring. So why not get started with these guys?
For sure, man. So next up on the clock, we're going to move to the number 6 pick. It's the Orlando Magic. Now, Orlando's been going through its fair share of struggles in recent years. They've tried all sorts of wings. Mario Hezonja, Terrence Ross. They've got a couple young players there that they're building with, and Aaron Gordon. And I just Jordan, they've been trying to win for years, and it's been unsuccessful. And they find themselves in the lottery again. They've got a plethora of big men. They've got holes everywhere. Where do you go here with the number 6 pick if you're the Orlando Magic?
I'm going to make my first reach of the night.
Okay.
I look at Orlando's team, and after they traded away their starting point guard, we all have to take a look and go, are you really going to let DJ Augustin run your point for another year?
Not if you want to make the playoffs.
I think if this is the way the board lays out, Orlando reaches and selects Colin Sexton from Alabama with the 6th overall pick. They need a point guard. This guy is as steady Eddie as they come. Looking over at his stat, there's a lot of talent there. Not, amazing, but at 19.2 points per game, he can fill the bucket, and 3.6 assists. Not great numbers overall, but I think those can definitely expand a little bit if he's given the talent that surrounds him. They can keep Aaron Gordon and the rest of the players involved. They should be okay.
Yeah, so Colin Sexton, this is an interesting pick here. He's relentless on the offensive end. He's been a guy that's been an underdog his entire life. And some people have even compared him to a kind of a Russell Westbrook, Eric Bledsoe type of mentality of just attack, attack, attack. And I think he definitely brings some excitement here to this Orlando team that's just it's been the city's been starved for some sort of excitement, and I think this definitely helps them. What do you think of the pick here, Kroon?
You know, the point guard spot in Orlando is a glaring need right now. I didn't understand why you trade Alfred Payton Jr. At the trade deadline, and it was a last-second deal. It came through at 3 p.m. Eastern, so it was the last thing that they were thinking about when it came down to the deadline. Honestly, I probably would have gone with Jaren Jackson Jr. here, only because I don't know if I can retain the. What's their center's name? I'm sorry.
Nikola Vucevic?
Yeah, Nikola Vucevic, much longer. I mean, they have him signed for a little while longer, but I think there are going to be some greener pastures coming up in his future for sure. And Jaren Jackson Jr., the way that our draft has gone out so far, is the next best big available. So for them, it's filling up in a spot where it's possibly going to be vacant in the next couple of years. But Orlando's been pretty hit and miss the last few years with respect to drafting and developing talent. So you have really no idea where they're going to be going right now.
Definitely. And, with that, we'll jump on to the number 7 pick here, the Chicago Bulls. There's still a lot of talent up on the board here. We've still got some big name players. Jaren Jackson, Michael Porter Jr. has been dropping here. But the Chicago Bulls last year's draft, they found Lauri Markkanen, who was a blessing for them. Definitely a cornerstone on their team. Chris Dunn emerged as a solid point guard with major defensive potential. And you've got Zach LaVine returning from his ACL injury as well. So, Jordan, we got Kroon on the board here next. Kroon, if you're the Chicago Bulls, who do you take at number 7 to put next to your young core?
I think you take Jaren Jackson Jr. Just like you said, you've got Chris Dunn, really young emerging point guard. You've got Zach LaVine, who's going to be filling up the bucket from the shooting guard role. You got Lauri Markkanen, who played out of his mind in his rookie campaign at the power forward. So why not shore up your starting lineup with the best player available at the center position, center or forward? So I take Jaren Jackson Jr. If I'm Gar.
So sell me on Jaren Jackson Jr. because to me, I haven't been the biggest fan of Jaren Jackson Jr. He seemed a little, not very explosive at the big position. I know he did get a lot of block shots, but what's the hype on Jaren Jackson Jr. from Michigan State here?
I think it has to do more with pedigree. If I understand correctly, I think his dad actually played in the NBA. So you have a kid who understands what it's like to be in and around an NBA setting. You can take a look at other kids that are currently in the NBA right now that had dads playing in the league previously, and they're going to turn out to be serviceable players. I think they understand what it takes to actually play in the game. But then again, you've got guys that are standing out like Steph Curry, whose dad played in the league. So maybe the work ethic rubs off on them, and they see what they need to do in order to transcend to that next level, talent-wise. But like I said, in my philosophy, I take best player available with respect to my depth chart, and Jaren Jackson Jr. falls right in at center for me right now in Chicago.
All right, Jordan, do you have any thoughts on this pick here? Most mock drafts that I've seen online have had Jaren Jackson going top 4. We've got him dropping to 7th. Do you like this pick?
You know what? At the position, if you get Jaren Jackson Jr. at 7 in Chicago, guard packs are giving each other high fives. It's a great positional need. Robin Lopez obviously isn't going to be there forever, and you start building that center. That's a great young core for a starting lineup. Everybody's really loving Jaren Jackson. That's why he's been crawling up the board. I mean, I would probably pick him over Mohamed Bamba, and I would probably pick him over Colin Sexton. But the only reasons I didn't is because those teams, when I had that pick available, already have a power forward starting. I mean, Orlando, if you pick Jaren Jackson Jr., Aaron Gordon's walking out that door. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you tell him or what you pay him. If you pick a guy who's, he can't play center, but I think he's more suited for the power forward role in today's NBA. I think Aaron Gordon walks. So it's a strategic play to figure out which position to draft with when you have RFAs. That's all I have to say about that.
Most definitely, man. All right. So with that, we'll move on to the 8th pick. And we've got the Cleveland Cavaliers at 8. And they're in a very peculiar situation here. LeBron's going into free agency. You've got a team that just made the NBA Finals. They got buried in the NBA Finals, but they made the NBA Finals. LeBron carried them all the way there. There's lots of rumors of them potentially trading this pick. But this is a team that also needs to start potentially looking at their future and building towards a future if LeBron chooses to leave for greener pastures. Jordan, if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers, what do you do here with the 8th pick?
Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
I pick Kawhi.
Kawhi is not on the board.
This is the pick in the top 15 that hits my yearbook as most likely to be put into a package for somebody else. Now, this is with so many variables on this thing, where LeBron goes, where Kawhi goes, because, Cleveland's got to put their name in it. Kevin Love, is he going to stay? But I'll take a page out of Kroon's book here. You take best player available on the board, and I'd say you look at picking up Mikal Bridges.
Mikal Bridges.
Out of Villanova. You take Bridges.
Okay. Please give your reasoning for this pick. Mikal Bridges. I like the guy here. What do you think, Jordan? Why Mikal Bridges over some of the other potential lottery picks here at the spot?
Well, see, the thing with Mikal Bridges is that he's a guard-forward combo. If LeBron stays, we all know LeBron's playing point guard. I know everyone keeps trying to tell me that Cleveland needs a point guard and Cleveland needs a center, but Tristan Thompson's getting paid way too much money to put him back on the bench. He showed up for the playoffs, and LeBron plays point guard anyway. So you pick a guy like him, you can build around Leaves. This guy's on a championship pedigree team, and we know LeBron's going to have his little fingers inside the Cleveland's general management group. We've seen it before in Miami where they picked Shabazz Napier, who won a championship in college. And, Mikal Bridges with Villanova. Villanova's won a couple now. That's been a good team. And he's been a part of those good teams. So he knows what it takes to win a championship at that level. And I think that LeBron's going to see that and see that this guy's going to be able to contribute right away. You slide him into that 2 spot. LeBron plays point guard. Fill the rest of the team because the team's strapped for cap. Unless a major trade happens, I think that's the way they're going to go down. It's the history of LeBron. It's what he's done for the past 3 drafts that he's been a part of.
Yeah, most definitely. I hear you on that one. LeBron even made comments after Game 3 of the NBA Finals, kind of saying that, you need smart players with high basketball IQ to take down a team like Golden State, and Mikal Bridges definitely fills that void right there.
Rajan, tell me about his defensive pedigree in Villanova.
Well, he's got he's a superb defender. He can shoot threes. He does everything basically, and I guess the one thing that he's lacking is that he struggles maybe creating his own shot a little bit, but he won't need to do that in Cleveland. He's going to be fed wide open 3-point shots from LeBron James, assuming he stays. And he's just a winner in my mind. Kroon, what do you think of this pick here? Mikal Bridges at number 8 to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
All right, so I'll just apologize. We're still talking about Mikal because my internet dropped mid-sentence there.
Oh, yes, we're still talking Mikal Bridges at number 8 to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Right, so I have one word for the Cavs that describes them perfectly. It starts with an F and it ends with a CK ED. Yes, the Cleveland Cavaliers are fire trucked right now.
Yes.
It doesn't matter who they pick. It really doesn't matter who they pick. It doesn't matter if LeBron stays or if LeBron goes. They gambled really hard getting this pick from Boston, assuming it was going to be a top 3, and that blew up in their face. Yeah, they did get a top 10 pick, but at this point, you're looking at a deep draft where most likely all the talented bigs and all the talented guards are going to be gone by number 8. So you're probably going to be looking at getting like a B-tier player here. So you either roll the dice on an injured guy like Michael Porter, who has no real resume to speak of, and you're drafting him purely on talent and potential, or you go with the safe pick in Mikal Bridges, who's been part of a winning scenario in Villanova. So Jordan, I think, is spot on, but it doesn't matter right now because Cleveland is fire trucked.
I like the way you put that, Kroon. That's very good. And we'll get into it a little more on a different podcast here about the future of the Cavaliers, but fire truck is definitely the best way to put this.
Could you guys imagine if Cleveland actually landed a top 3 pick in this year's draft? How different the decision for LeBron would be if they got someone like a DeAndre Ayton or a Marvin Bagley.
Or even a Luka Doncic.
Even a Bamba or a Doncic. That's just absolutely redonkulous.
Yeah, and that might have been enough to maybe add another superstar player to bring to Cleveland to add to LeBron James if they had landed that. I think at 8, you're a little too far out of that top tier to make a significant deal for a real game changer. So I think Mikal Bridges at this point, assuming LeBron stays, it's a good pick. So we're going to move on to the next pick here. It's another team that has had their struggles with draft picks in the past, and they are just starving for some sort of excitement in New York. With the 9th pick, the New York Knicks are on the board here. They have potentially Kristaps Porzingis set to miss the majority of next season still with nursing an injury. They've got Tim Hardaway Jr., who, despite all his shortcomings, their lack of talent has already made him a legend in New York. They've got a young point guard there, Neil Akita. Who do you think they add here to their core, Kroon, to try and take them over to the next level?
I might violate my rule here.
Okay.
I think the Knicks are going to take Michael Porter here only because the Knicks know for the next 2 to 3 years they're going to suck. So why not roll the dice at number 9 and take a guy who is maybe turning a few heads right now, regardless of not playing many games for Mizzou this year. So I roll the dice and I take Michael Porter. Let me just pull up a handy-dandy website here that I use frequently. No names given, though. But first comparison I see is Kevin Durant. Now, size-wise, body type, maybe, skill set, maybe, but we don't know because we haven't seen him play. But if you're looking at New York, you need to take a couple chances right now. Porzingis isn't looking like he doesn't. Well, after they hired Fizdale, maybe his opinions changed. But right now, if I'm Porzingis, I don't want to spend my career in New York. Who would want to? There's nothing going on there. Roll the dice. Let's see if Michael Porter turns out to be Kevin Durant or even Kevin Durant light, and hopefully stuff starts to gel.
Yeah, Michael Porter Jr. Now, he's been all over the place on draft boards. People have him going as high as number 2. People have him going as low as 9 or 10 in this draft. And the truth is, he played a total of 3 games this last season, nursing his injuries, which was a back injury. And earlier this week, he was set to have a workout, but he had canceled it due to a hip injury. So this is, looking to be another type of maybe a Greg Oden situation where the guy just chronic injuries. I don't know, but he's definitely high risk, high reward. Jordan, do you like Michael Porter Jr. here at number 9?
I do. I really do. I don't know what Kroon's saying when he's breaking his rules, because I really believe at this point in the draft, he is still the best player available. Granted, with injury concern, with a big asterisk, Michael Porter Jr., star. But I can tell you that before his university career was derailed, he was a star. This guy was the projected first overall pick coming out of high school when he committed to Mizzou. And yeah, Michael, this is New York. Welcome to the big lights, big city. You got to perform. So, you know what? Hopefully Frank Nicolina takes another step. As much as I love seeing Trey Burke have a resurgent year in New York last year, I think that these are all the right tools to have, where you have a guard, a forward, and a power forward center. You start building around. You know what? Tim Hardaway's there too, like you said. Maybe you can start enticing some free agents back to the Big Apple.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the route that the Knicks will have to try and go if they want to improve. And maybe they can lure a big free agent to play in the Big Apple there. So that's to be seen. So with the next pick here at number 10, we've got the Philadelphia 76ers on the board. Again, Philly, they just came out and had a nice playoff run. It ended a little more disappointing than they had hoped. They definitely wanted to go a little deeper in the playoffs. They lost in the second round there to the Boston Celtics. So where do they go with this pick? Are we still trusting the process, taking risks on players, or do they try to fill a position of need? Jordan, you're on the board here at number 10 for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Well, first off, always trust the process. This isn't even their pick. This is a pick they picked up from the Lakers, I believe.
Yes,
so
that's
the
right.
fact that they can pick in the top 10 such a deep draft, good on them. Easy pick for me in Philadelphia. The glaring hole in their process-changing alterations seems to be the man who disappeared in the playoffs, as we all known to love, the 3-and-D Robert Covington. I don't know what happened to that dude, but he disappeared. So we're going to have to start looking for his replacement, or figure out what we can do to get him back in playoff shape. And his replacement is going to be Kevin from Kentucky.
That is Kevin Knox, Jordan?
Kevin Knox.
Lock
it in.
I love that pick. I love that pick. Jordan, tell me a little bit about Kevin Knox, man.
Kevin Knox from Kentucky, forward overall. I mean, what's his point? What's his stats coming out for me?
Well, he's a 6'9", 215. I know he's a good shooter. He's got lots of upside, and the kid just competes.
He averaged 16 points a game and about 6 rebounds at Kentucky. A freshman, part of the Kentucky's ever-rotating freshman class. His comparison table right now brings him in at a Tobias Harris, which I think is exactly what Philadelphia needs now that they've filled all the other positions. They've got their Joel Embiids, they've got Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons. So they've got enough guards. So I think this is just a real solid pick for them. I don't think they need anybody outstanding. They just need a guy who shows up and puts in work, which I do for them.
Yeah, Kevin Knox is he's oozing with potential here. He's one of the youngest players in the draft, if not, I believe, the youngest. And he's built like a prototypical 3-4 combo here in the NBA, which is it's basically what Robert Covington was supposed to be this last year for the Sixers. And I think it's a great pick here. Kroon, what do you think of Kevin Knox from Kentucky?
I mean, if Rocco decides to just not be Rocco anymore, it's a good pick. You've got a ton of potential in a super young kid, and like you said, he's part of the revolving door of freshmen at Kentucky right now. Kentucky doesn't pick slouches. They're a powerhouse when it comes to recruiting, so you can basically assume that he's probably going to be pretty good at some point in his career. career. My evaluation of Philadelphia is I would need to get a little bit bigger and a little bit more tough. I would probably look at the remaining big, the highest potential big right now on the docket, and that's Wendell Carter out of Duke. But honestly, like you said, it's not their pick. They can go whatever way that they want. They're going to be good next year regardless. So pick the talent that you think is best.
Most definitely, guys. I like it there. So we're nearing the end of the lottery here. We're going to, for the last 4 picks, we're going to switch it up a little bit. It's going to be... Yeah, we can still hear you there, Kroon. So for these last few picks, we've got the Charlotte Hornets at 11, followed by the Clippers, who have 2 picks. I'm going to let Jordan take both of those picks. So Kroon, you'll be picking 11 for the Hornets and 14 for the Nuggets. So up next, we've got the Hornets at the number 11 pick. And, you know, they're going into a very interesting offseason. They've got a lot of question marks. What do they do with Kemba Walker? What do they do with Dwight Howard? How's Nick Batum going to fit in with all this? They've got all these veteran players, but they're right up at the luxury tax. And you know Jordan does not want to pay luxury tax. So, Kroon, at number 11 for the Charlotte Hornets, who do you take?
I'm going to take Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Absolutely loved watching this kid play for Kentucky this year. He would almost start taking games over by himself come March Madness. I think there's a specific type of player that, you know, really starts to come out into his own when it comes into March Madness. And if you can, you know, if you can win your way to get your team to, you know, Sweet 16 or the Elite 8, I think you have a really good shot of, you know, making your way in the NBA. The other thing is that I don't think Charlotte sees Kemba Walker right now as a mainstay on their team. So I think they need to start filling up behind him. There's been a ton of rumors circulated in the last 24 hours saying that Kemba is almost on his way out, and we saw at the trade deadline there was also another, you know, bunch of rumors saying that Kemba almost got traded, almost got dealt to Cleveland or San Antonio or something like that. So I think Shai is a really good pick here, and I think he's the first Canadian off the board.
All right, nice pick there. The 6'6" point guard at Kentucky. Jordan, you agree with this pick here?
No, not much to say for Charlotte. They're up the creek without a paddle. Their team also seems to be, how Kroon says, fire truck. I mean, any pick at this point is going to be a good pick for them. They need every position. So, you know what? Maybe you do try and get something else going. Shai comes in and replaces him right away. I mean, he is literally the opposite of Kemba. Dude's 6'6". A little bit light, needs to put on some weight, but you could definitely play him at the shooting guard position, no problem, in what we're all coming to know and love with the NBA, small ball 2-point guard lineup.
Yeah, the positionless basketball is, as some like to say in the NBA nowadays. So I think he definitely fits in well with their players that they've got. You know, they've got a lot of versatile wings in there too, with Batum and Marvin Williams, and Dwayne Bacon's out there as well. So I think it's a good fit. So coming up here next to the next 2 picks is the LA Clippers at 12 and 13. They're in a very, a pretty good position here. They got 2 picks in the late lottery. They could look to move these picks. They could look to draft 2 prospects to help bolster the roster. Jordan, the Clippers, where do you think they go with this pick here? They're in a kind of an interesting spot here as a franchise, kind of on the fringe of playoff team and lottery team. Where do you think they go with these 2 picks here? You're on the board for both 12 and 13.
I have to fact check you, Rajan. Did you say Lou Will plays for Charlotte?
No. I said Kevin or Dwayne Bacon.
You said Lou Will and Dwayne Bacon. All right, I must have cut out my internet. I'll give you a pass on that.
I said Marvin Williams.
Oh, Marvin Williams. Oh, okay. Hey, my bad, man.
Yeah.
All right, so for the Clippers, 2 picks. I'm basically going with anyone we've talked about previously. If they're still on the board at this point, they're getting swept up. However, if this is not the case, I mean, right now, if for some reason, Kroon and I have let Wendell Carter from Duke fall to the 12th overall pick, personally, I don't think that will happen. But, I mean, like I said, we had our specific reasons and positions to pick. So Wendell Carter is one of these, absolutely for sure. You know what? He's the best player available. Power forward center from Duke. Great player. A lot of news right now in the rumblings. A lot of people are looking at him and Marvin Bagley. And Marvin Bagley is not the clear-cut best player at Duke. A lot of people, even though Wendell didn't put up as many points because he wasn't featured on the offense like that, they say he could be as good or even better than him. So to pick up that much hype at the 12th is a great job for them. Now, the next pick for them is a little bit more challenging. I mean, there's 2 guys that come to mind for me, one being Robert Williams from Texas A&M and Zaire Smith from Texas Tech. So if I think do here, would probably be going with Zaire Smith at Texas Tech, and that would be my pick. 6'4", 200-pound guard. I mean, this guy, but has played pretty well from my understanding. I didn't watch him a lot over the last couple games there of the college season. Those would be my 2 picks at this point: Wendell Carter and Zaire Smith.
All right, I like those picks there. Wendell Carter definitely, if he falls this low, is major steal potential here at this pick. Like you said, he's been considered definitely a top 10 player for sure, maybe even top 8 in this draft. So to get him at the 12th spot for the Clippers would be a steal. And I definitely think you got to combine that with a guard. Zaire Smith, he's one of 3 of the top prospects here that just recently signed a deal with Puma, who seems to be signing everybody these days. So
that means he must be good.
Yeah, he definitely must be good, man. They're on a resurgence, and I think Zaire Smith, he's got another high upside pick here, and he's gonna have a lot of good young guards there to kind of show him the ropes with the Clippers. He won't be pressured to come out right away and get buckets and make a huge impact, as he'll have Lou Will and Austin Rivers there to kind of bring him along nicely. And I think it's a good landing spot. What do you think, Kroon?
It's hard to say. You get this deep in the draft normally, and it's almost a crapshoot. But I think this year was a pretty deep draft with respect to talent. But the thing is that the Clippers landed 2 picks where I think the talent drop off starts to really show. So 12 and 13, you take best player available. If Wendell Carter drops to you, which he probably won't, you thank your God, whoever you pray to, and you take him and move. It's basically they're handcuffed with what's left on the board right now. So I agree with both picks.
Okay. And
what's the deal with Puma? And why do they want to sign all these athletes? But Kroon, I agree with you. I think the talent gap between the 12th and the 13th pick is the largest in the first round.
Yeah, no doubt. Puma's come out of nowhere here recently, and I don't know if people have been listening to the news here, but Puma was very big back in the day. They had Vince Carter signed on with them originally, and they're trying to make a comeback as a basketball sneaker, signing away a lot of these top athletes. We'll definitely...
Sorry, hold the phone. Vince Carter signed with And One.
He was also...
Don't tell me anything different. I bought Vince Carter Tai Chi ones when I was in grade 8. Don't tell me that he signed with Puma. I don't believe that for 1 second.
We'll have to fact check that later, but Vince Carter was with Puma. Somebody at me. So, coming up on this last one here, we're at the very last pick of the lottery, and the last pick of our mock draft, we have got the Denver Nuggets with the 14th pick. Denver just barely missed out on the playoffs this year. Very exciting, down-to-the-wire last game of the season against the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're right on the cusp of making it into the big dance. Who do they take with the 14th pick here, Kroon?
You know what? There are two guys in this draft that I kept my eyes on throughout March Madness consistently. One of them was Trae Young. The other was Miles Bridges. That dude trucked on too many kids this year. It almost seemed like every other week there was another highlight where Miles Bridges was dunking over somebody's face. He's got unbelievable work ethic. He played at a really good school, which has what I would say a pedigree for producing players that work extremely hard. He's athletic as shit. Why not roll the dice here? I mean, there's enough rumors right now saying that Denver's trying to get rid of the manimal right now. Why not pick up another kid that's got, some athleticism and, the willpower to throw down on some kids? He will probably pair very, very well with Jokic. But that's just what I think.
Okay, Miles Bridges definitely. I think it's a safe pick at this spot here for the Nuggets. They have a pending free agent, Will Barton. Who knows how much he's going to get in the open market? So definitely a good pick here to maybe try and fill that gap if they're not able to re-sign him. Jordan, what do you think?
I'm sorry. I just found out that triple extension was shot dead today, so I'm a little bit upset. That's a complete change of subject. For Denver's pick, yeah, Kroon's right. They got to get some of the money off the book. They got to be able to sign some of their free agents coming on, and that might mean the Manimal leaving. However, point out that they did the same thing last year and traded Donovan Mitchell for Trey Lyles. And while Trey had a nice year as a backup power forward, Donovan Mitchell was a game changer. And what a random pick at that high in the draft. So if you want to go with a Miles Bridges here, I think Denver would be stupid not to pick a high upside guy like this. I'm really hoping that Kroon was going to feel the love and maybe pick Dante DiVincenzo or like a Grayson Allen. They're not going to go that high. I'm just kidding. But, my safe pick for the end of the lottery. I'm all right with this one.
On that note, I thought you were going to pick Dante DiVincenzo for the last pick for the Clippers, because that pick seems like an absolute idiot pick there. Not going to lie, I think DiVincenzo screams Clippers because their front office has absolutely no idea what the hell to do.
Yeah, they're in definitely an interesting position here going forward. I just have one more update for you guys here on the Puma front. It was confirmed that Vince Carter signed with Puma upon joining the NBA, and he was with Puma for the first 2 seasons. We go do some fact checking on the pod. Just a couple live fact checks. He had a big dunk on Dikembe Mutombo with his Pumas on too. So he was also the last athlete associated with them before they went under.
You just got fact checked.
Hey man, I know what I'm doing. So, guys,
if you pay attention enough to our fantasy basketball Slack channel, I think there's a little bit too much sneaker knowledge going on right now. But I'll admit, I got served.
Yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good. Well, that's our picks 1 through 14. I'll do a quick recap here. We had DeAndre Ayton going first to the Phoenix Suns. We had Marvin Bagley going second to the Sacramento Kings. We had Mo Bamba going third to the Atlanta Hawks. We had Luka Doncic going fourth to the Memphis Grizzlies. We had Trae Young going fifth to the Dallas Mavericks. We had Colin Sexton going sixth to the Orlando Magic. Jaren Jackson Jr. going seventh to the Chicago Bulls. Mikal Bridges going eighth to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Michael Porter Jr. ninth to the New York Knicks. Kevin Knox 10th to the Philadelphia 76ers. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander going 11th to the Charlotte Hornets. We had Wendell Carter and Zahir Smith going 12 and 13 to the Clippers. And finally, Miles Bridges going 14th to the Denver Nuggets. Guys, if you had to pick one player who will look back at, maybe 3 or 4 years down the road and say, that one player where teams were like, oh yeah, we had him second on our board overall. We should have taken him. Who is that one guy for you that's going to be that sleeper pick that you think maybe 3 or 4 years down the road, people are like, man, how do we miss on this guy? Kroon, I'll start with you.
My guess is probably going to be Michael Porter just because of the injuries and being a complete unknown. I think he's going to end up being a pretty serviceable guy in the NBA. Not worthy of the ninth, maybe top 5, but I think Porter's the guy that you look at teams regretting that they didn't pick.
Okay, and Jordan, who do you think is your one guy that teams will regret not picking?
There's a lot of variables here. I mean, coming up to this mock draft, I'm looking at that, right? I'm looking at the guys who didn't pick Russell Westbrook, or the one team, Portland, who didn't pick Kevin Durant or Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
So a matter of picking one player at number 1 and missing out on that all-star, superstar, Hall of Fame guy at number 2, or if it's more going to be like last year's Donovan Mitchell. If I had Donovan Mitchell, just based on our draft, probably Wendell Carter, talented guy who didn't deserve to fall just because that's how our draft laid out. It's another great one, Kroon, as you've said over the past, couple of years. Look how many times Minnesota passed on Steph Curry, and they're still they're still struggling in that sense to find something that's really going to work for them. And that could have been a game changer to have picked that guy instead. So I think at this point, there's a lot of talent on the board. I'm just going to have to wait and see. A lot of these guys all come in at that, like Kroon was saying, tiers. And the first tier cuts off at about 12. That's a deep draft. So, I haven't had a deep draft like this long in a while. So, time will tell.
Yeah, no doubt. And for the record, if I had to pick one person as my sleeper here, I'm going to go with Kevin Knox. I think he's going to be a guy that teams look back on and say, how did we miss on this guy? I think that's going to be the Donovan Mitchell of this year's draft. So that concludes our NBA draft guide, mock draft. Jordan, take us away for the outro.
This has been another episode of the Give and Go podcast. We are back, baby. I got my host with the most, Rajan Sharma, special guest. Shout out to the most analytical, the most technical savvy dude I know, Adam Kroon. Thanks for being on the podcast for us tonight. Remember, kids, you can find us at all your favorite social media handles is at Facebook at Give and Go Podcast, Twitter at Give the letter N Go Podcast, SoundCloud, YouTube, Google Play Store, Podcast Addict, and iTunes. And stay tuned in the future. We're going to try and reduce these down, and so I don't have to talk this much at the very end, because my voice hurts after talking hoops for this long. Now remember, we've given you the information. Now go do something with it. Give and go.
And we out.